as to the manner of occurrence of the realities in the essence being, as lived realities, and all good or bad events which are connected to these realities make mankind happy or sad with their various appearances. They actually cause some formations and transformations in the essence being, by values suitable to the constitution of that being, which cannot be understood by man. In this way, within very sublime matter syntheses, they put into effect their subtle combinations which are in completely different forms and manners than their appearances in the world, by becoming enriched as they gain values. These are true essence knowledge of the spirits that serve their evolutions. So, as material forms and states, as we have just mentioned, of the realities among crude world matter continue by following and preparing each other, their conclusions, their companions, in the essence being feed the essence knowledge gradually accumulating in states which have much deeper and subtler meanings than their expressions in relation to the crude cosmos. These are real evolutionary values. Those who compare the concept of evolutionary values we previously talked about with the concept here, will expand their intuitions a little more concerning in what manner spirits benefit from the universe. The essence comprehension that expands with essence knowledge, that is, the true comprehension belonging to the being which is above the milieu of body, and reaching to the end of universe together with the being, benefits from the manner of crude appearances of the realities it lives in directly, via the channel of the body in the world. And by this, it continues its services belonging to the evolution of the spirit it is subject to. So, after this knowledge is grasped properly, the possibilities of confusion and bewilderment by mixing the meanings of terms like realities both lived and forgotten, have been cleared away. For, here, there are two screens which have become targets for events. One of them is the crude matter gatherings we call the physical, and the other is a subtle and complex being serving as spirit by utilizing this gathering. Crudeness of the body is good for receiving crude realities and allows the possibility of increase of essence knowledge in the being. So, what need to be forgotten when they are completed, are the crude appearances of the realities addressing the crude bodies. And this is an imperative of the superficial comprehension of time, which we will explain later. For, in accordance with this imperative, for a value to be put into effect, the old value needs to leave its place to it. On the other hand, the aspects of the realities addressing the essence being are the subtle meanings in the essence being, which are the companions of their crude appearances. These are, as we previously said, value parts which prepare and join each other, and these parts expand the essence knowledge synthesis. We repeat that, in studying the topic of living the realities and forgetting them, it should be remembered to discern the material memories which depend on the human brain, on chronological value and systems in accordance with the superficial time comprehension, from the impressions of these realities which are deepened in the being and included within the essence knowledge synthesis. This is because, as forgetting the former ones is necessary for a body which is subject to the superficial time necessities, the firm establishment of the latter among the essence knowledge for a being that lives with spherical time comprehension, is as natural and imperative. And it is even the necessity of the original purpose. Now, we will study a little more the relations between the dualities of the conscience mechanism ensuring an increase in essence knowledge. We have said that in the conscience mechanism, the two opposing appearances of which one is directed to duty and the other is directed to earthly cravings, consist only of realities following and preparing each other. According to its order, the same reality can be directed both to earthly cravings and to duty. Where it needs to be obliged to, it is directed to duty, and where it needs to be left behind, it is directed to earthly cravings. Therefore, just like the conclusions of earthly cravings, that is, the essence knowledge brings about the riches of the past by locking on each other and preparing the future ones, likewise, the future ones pave the way for the ones to come, that are directed to the plan of duty. Here, in order to be able to explain the respective states of the opposing components directed to duty and to earthly cravings, with more material similes, we go back to the example of the bar magnet we have previously given. Let us hold this bar magnet with its positive side is up and its negative side down, in the direction of a plumb line. In this state, the bar magnet's exact higher half and exact lower half contain equal amounts of opposite magnetism to each other. Now, if we lengthen this bar upwards, that is, if we add magnetism to it from the higher part, the neutral point of the bar shifts and moves a little higher. Because some magnetism is added to the positive side, a flux of magnetism will start from positive to negative, and the equilibrium line moves up. If we do this from the lower part, the result reverses, the equilibrium line shifts a bit lower. This is a rough example, but it is useful in giving an intuition. This experiment indicates that although one is signed positive and the other is signed negative, the component on both sides of the bar is the same substance. Naturally, the conscience duality we symbolize with the bar magnet does not display such a simple state. That is, there are differences too great and too complex between its components to compare with the components of magnetism. Because of this, the reality differences here are not as simple as the positive, negative poles of the magnet. However, we give this example to impart a rough intuition of the workings of the conscience mechanism. So, if we hold the conscience, which we symbolize by a bar magnet, in the direction of the plumb line, with its higher component directed at duty in equilibrium with its lower component directed to earthly cravings, the value degrees of these components in the face of human comprehension, that is, again within the conscience mechanism itself, are equal to each other. And their equilibrium line, relative to the bar magnet symbol, is in the exact middle. If we lengthen this conscience bar upwards starting from its higher half, that is, if we add values to the higher parts near to the duty reality, the charge of the bar increases towards that part. And the previous equilibrium line remains below. In this case, respective equilibrium state of the directions of duty and earthly cravings becomes disrupted. However, the law of equilibrium cannot stand this disruption. As with the magnetic phenomena, until the equilibrium is restored, a flux starts from the increased value side to the decreased value side, from the duty side to the earthly craving side. This flux, of course, means that some value parts of the higher reality pass into the lower reality. Naturally, these values we mention, as explained above, are not for the aspect of reality that addresses the body belonging to matter and forms, but for the aspect addressing the being preoccupied with essence knowledge. These are essence knowledge values, and they are put into effect after myriad applications of the conscience mechanism. So, the start of this flux from positive side to negative side causes the disrupted equilibrium line to be restored to a level that is a little higher than the previous one. More correctly, some parts of the duty component values, by mixing amidst the earthly craving components, have elevated the level of earthly cravings a little. In this way, the level of essence knowledge and comprehension of essence knowledge reaches upward. Therefore, as the values belonging to the duty side of the conscience mechanism increase, the values of the higher direction flowing in the direction to the earthly cravings entail a shift of earthly craving direction towards the duty direction, and the ascent of the equilibrium line between the two directions towards the knowledge of a plan of duty. We would like to point out that what people must do regarding comprehending world values is to feed the component of the conscience duality orientated to duty, and to retroject the component of earthly cravings. For, as the values are added to the duty component, the gains of the conscience equilibrium within the essence being will increase quickly, and as the higher components are neglected by becoming attached to the earthly craving components, the increase in essence knowledge will decelerate by becoming subject to the automatic advance through other channels, with gradual and arduous applications at great lengths. Therefore, to shorten the path of development and lessen the arduous intervention imperatives as much as possible, it is necessary to attain a level of comprehension as soon as possible to be able to discern the higher and lower components of this mechanism so that comprehension and effort of orientation upwards may be possible. Because of this, we must elaborate on comprehension whose significance is obvious. We mentioned above that the conscience mechanism exists in pre-human beings, naturally, in the most primitive forms, in states of instinctual dualities, and it starts to take its comprehending form at the stage of humanity that only starts with human life. The reason for this is, no doubt, that the power of comprehension has reached its degree particular to the level of humanity. The conscience mechanism at the stage of humanity is adjusted according to the comprehensions. The development of the conscience mechanism in mankind exhibits varying levels, from the simplest level of comprehension to the highest comprehension. All of these indicate that comprehension has a very important status in the development of the conscience mechanism. More correctly, the development of conscience means development of comprehension. In the initial world beings at which the comprehension exists in states of very simple instincts, conscience mechanism exists only according to that level. For example, in plants, which mankind recognized as the initial beings in the world, there exist automatic instincts which are at the simplest state of comprehension. And this, of course, displays a state which is a far cry from the levels of comprehension mankind has. And because of this, they cannot be defined as comprehension. However, these instincts represent comprehension sufficiently in these beings for their life needs. In this context, let us elaborate on the true meaning of comprehension.